Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Okay, so up to this point, we have talked about cell respiration and breaking down the bonds in sugar to release the energy, transferring that to ATP. Now we're going to turn our attention to organisms that can take sunlight energy and trap that in bonds of sugar, making it accessible to all organisms. Any organism that can do that can take sunlight energy, or any energy for that matter, but in this case, sunlight energy, and trap it in chemical bonds as chemical energy, and therefore make it usable for everybody else, is called an autotroph. We simply think of that as making our own food, because food is organic materials that have energy trapped in their bonds. And so autotrophs are things that make their own food or trap sunlight energy. And they do that using a process called photosynthesis. So we're going to talk about photosynthesis, which is absolutely necessary in the world if anybody's going to have sugar, food, molecules with energy trapped in bonds. If anybody's going to have that for respiration, we have to have this happen somewhere on the planet first. And the organisms that can do that are plants. So how do they do that? So plants take in sunlight energy, right? That's the whole point. We're going to convert that into the bonds of sugar. And what else do plants need? Well, you have to water plants. So when you water them in the ground, the water goes into their roots and up their stem, into their leaves, and you can have the water there. The sunlight comes in through the top of the leaf. And because you've learned this for years in school, that plants need carbon dioxide. Well, this is the process they need carbon dioxide for. They take in carbon dioxide through the bottoms of their leaves, they take the sunlight in through the top, and they take their water in through their roots, and it goes up. So plants need water. You have to water plants, so that's easy to remember. You know that plants need carbon dioxide, so that's the other thing that goes in. Now, what do they make? They make oxygen, right? Which is great because it means we get to do aerobic respiration. That's our source of oxygen. And they make glucose. So glucose and oxygen is what comes out. Now, what's missing on this chemical reaction? What haven't I drawn in? The sunlight energy, right? So let's take a look at this a little bit differently. So let's start with the reaction that we're talking about. What do we need? Water, right? Goes in through the roots, and carbon dioxide comes in through the bottoms of the leaves. And what is made? Glucose and oxygen, right? So that's the reaction we're talking about. So what's the thing that was missing on the reaction? What is it that has to be put in besides water and carbon dioxide? The energy, right? That's the whole point here. So sunlight energy is being put in, and that's called photosynthesis in plants. That's the reaction we just talked about. But let's take a look at that. We've got an arrow going the other direction. What could that be representing? We have glucose plus oxygen, time passing, and something coming out of it, and you end up with water and carbon dioxide. What reaction starts with glucose and oxygen and ends with water and carbon dioxide? Cellular respiration. So cellular respiration takes the energy out of the glucose and converts it to ATP, the process that's usable in the cell. So this is what plants are doing. Plants are taking sunlight energy and making food that is trapping it in chemical bonds of sugar. That is not usable in the cell, whether you're a plant or an animal. Then you have to tear all those bonds apart and shift the energy over to ATP. That's called respiration. Plants do that and then make water and carbon dioxide as a waste and use those again, use sunlight energy to trap energy between all the atoms of that, make sugar, make their food, and then they break it down by respiration again. They get the ATP out for use for life activities, leaving these wastes that can then be used for photosynthesis. Plants can do this whole thing without us. They don't need us. They're independent. But we can't do this portion. We don't have chloroplasts with protein in it called chlorophyll. We cannot do photosynthesis. We cannot take sunlight energy and trap it into bonds of organic molecules. That is, we cannot make our own food. We have to rip them out of the ground, steal it, and use the sugar that they made, and then we can break it down and transfer it into ATP that we use for life processes in our cells. And we release water and carbon dioxide, and plants can take that in. And so that is the cycle between respiration and photosynthesis.